Good morning. I am Anna, wife of Timaeus of Jericho, and something so wonderful, so unusual happened to our family that I feel compelled to tell you about it. It's what happened to our son, Nathaniel. Not that you would have heard his name, you know. I mean, that's how it is with blind people. The Timaeus boy, they've called him, Bar-Timaeus, as if we hadn't given him a name of his own. It's Nathaniel. Nathaniel Bar-Timaeus. And to us, he's our own special Nat. It wasn't easy raising him. In fact, one of Timaeus's Greek clients, he was surprised that we even tried. He said he would have simply left a blind child on the garbage dump the day he was born. Well, we're Jews. You know, maybe Greeks do that, but we're Jews. We take care of our children, our poor, and our widows. You know, not that we were poor. That made it a little bit easier. You know, we were able to keep Nat safe at home with us when he was young, and I suppose I spent a lot of time with him, more than the other children. I mean, he had to learn about the world. I remember teaching him how to walk. You know, he'd never seen anybody walk before, and he couldn't see things around him, in front of him, or above him, in front of him. So I had to pick him up and put him on his feet and then guide his steps. And then I had to move around the room and call his name and have him come to me. I'm glad I had the time. My sister, she was scandalized that we even let him eat with us, even when we had company. I mean, our friends learned to enjoy talking with him. I mean, he was so full of questions about the world outside. I'm afraid it did upset a few of my husband's business associates. I mean, it simply isn't done, letting a blind child out in public. My sister said he should at least have the decency to stay to his room so not to shame us. You know, but she doesn't know our Nathaniel. She didn't take time to get to know him. He does what he wants to do. I would have had to tie him up to keep him in his room. Plus, what's so shameful about being born blind? He certainly is guilty of no sin that he should be punished. And I don't see how God would punish him for a sin of mine or his father's. You know, I don't know that much about religion, but it just doesn't seem like something God would do. Well, at any rate, Nat was never ashamed of who he was. He would even plead with us to go downtown to learn what it was like there. And I suppose that's where he first learned about alms. Someone tried to give him some money, supposing that he was begging, and so he asked us about it. And we explained that as the people of God, we are pledged to give to those in need. That we set aside a portion of our income in a special purse to give to the poor and needy. And in the small towns, the priest or the rabbi, they know who is in need and they distribute the gifts. But in the larger towns, the needy have learned to go to where the people are in order to get their fair share. They take a begging bowl and they go to the market or at the gates or along the roadside, and they sit with their bowl for money asking people for alms. Well, Nat was so excited about that idea. Timaeus and I felt shame. I mean, for goodness sake, we could take care of our own. He didn't need to beg for his daily bread. But for Nat, you know, he saw it as an opportunity. It was the world. It wasn't the money. It was what he could learn and how he could grow. And he could be out in the world taking part in things. He could even be a contributing member of the household and hold up his end of it this way. He could even give alms himself. And so he convinced us. His little brother would take him out to the roadside each day with his bowl for money and then come back for him later. And oh my goodness, the things that Nat learned. He would talk all night about what he'd heard along the roadside. I mean, he heard about all the goings on of the Herodian family, and then he heard about new taxes before any of us. And he even got a religious education. He heard about all the prophecies and promises of the coming Messiah. He knew that the Messiah was going to be from the family of David and would come to save God's people. And he knew that the Messiah would be God's chosen one, even as David had been. So recently, Nat heard about this Jesus. They say that he even healed people who were lame, leprous, or blind. They say that he even brought the dead back to life. Oh, my Lord, was Nat excited. I mean, Nat wanted to see. The roadside was a better prison than his room. But it was still a prison, and the son of Timaeus wanted more. He wanted to see. I mean, that wasn't necessarily true of all the beggars of Jericho. I mean, some of them had a pretty comfortable life, and they'd made a life for themselves, and they were okay with being taken care of. But not my Nathaniel. He hated being taken care of. He knew that he wanted to be healed. And so when he heard about this Jesus, this new teacher, he became convinced that this man could help him, might even give him his sight. He became convinced that this man was the Son of God, that he was the Messiah, that he had the power of God in him. And so when he heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, he got so excited, and he had his brother take him along to the road, to the Jerusalem road where Jesus was sure to pass by, and he told the other beggars to tell him when Jesus came by, oh, Nathanael is not a man to be shushed. He was determined to make as much of a nuisance of himself as it took to get Jesus' attention through the crowd. He was determined to ask for Jesus' help. And oh, what a fuss my son made. He hollered at Jesus, Jesus, Son of God, Messiah, Messiah, Jesus. I mean, the people around him kept telling him to be quiet, be quiet. And he just hollered all the more, Jesus, Son of God, Son of God. And it worked. Jesus stopped. And he asked my son what he really wanted. And Nathanael spoke out without shame or hesitation. And he said, I want to see. I couldn't have done all that. I suppose I'd much rather settle for what is comfortable and available than ask for help. And I would rather die than make a public scene. I'm not much like my son. My son, Nathaniel Bartimaeus, had the courage to dream. He had the courage to take a risk. He had the courage to show up for Jesus and ask for help. And he can see now. Jesus, the Son of God, gave him the gift of sight. I mean, who can doubt that this man is the Son of God? I mean, he may not be a conquering warrior on a white horse, but who else can give the gift of sight to a man born blind? Perhaps we too need the courage to show up to Jesus and to ask for help. Perhaps we too need the courage to ask Jesus to enable us to see those who are sitting along the roadside, to see those who are imprisoned in one way or another, to see those who are most vulnerable among us. Perhaps we need the courage to live and love like Jesus.